district attorney's office should be disqualified, if for no other reason, because the elected district attorney, Flynn Roddie, used Roddie Bryan and used this case as part of his election. And he said things in the course of that election that he can't take back now. You don't get to tell the American people that the Cobb County District Attorney's Office has a conflict and shouldn't be handling the case, that the former DA, quote-unquote, put fame above ethics, and then come back later and say you were just kidding. That's a real problem. And when you look at all these other social media posts that this new district attorney has made, he clearly made his office in this race and this case part of the campaign by the Democratic Party of Georgia to turn Georgia blue. You look at these posts, and it's very clear what he was doing, and it's very clear that he used this case for that purpose. And he doesn't get to come in now and say, oh, I'm sorry, I'm kidding, it was just a campaign. We're entitled to have a fair trial. That includes a prosecutor who is fair and neutral and impartial. And when it's clear that the prosecutor has developed an interest in the case, which is what's happened here, then he needs to step aside.
But isn't that part of the job of a prosecutor? I mean, he took over an office that already had this case, right? I mean, he wasn't saying these things before there were charges, did he?
Well, let's be clear. There have been questions from the very beginning of this case about who's prosecuting it and why. All these appointments have been challenged, including his appointment, which we still contend doesn't comply with the law. But there were questions from day one when the Cobb County District Attorney's Office or the Cobb County District Attorney, Joyette Holmes, was appointed to handle this case, given the connection between their office and the Brunswick District Attorney's Office, including Greg McMichael. So that was an issue, a sensitive issue from the start. And Mr. Roddie, he's on his website saying that his office is disqualified from handling this case. He ran on that. He made this case, the Arbery case, an issue in his election campaign. And there's no coming back from that. He chose to do that. And he has to live with the consequences. And I'm sorry for the Arbery family that this would involve further delay of the case. I think everyone has an interest in seeing this case tried and justice done, whatever that may be. But still, we're entitled to a fair trial, and that includes a fair prosecutor. And Mr. Roddie has demonstrated that he cannot be fair based on the public comments that he made when he was running for office.
All right, big picture now. From your perspective, what's the biggest misperception of your client? We're looking at him right now, William Roddie Bryan, and this case.
Well, I think the biggest misperception is that somehow Roddie Bryan has anything to do with the McMichaels and whatever was going on in their heads on the day of this shooting. My guy is not in communication with them prior to the shooting. And all he's doing is, it's very clear, he's out on his front porch minding his own business. When someone that he doesn't know goes running by, followed by a vehicle that he recognizes as being from the neighborhood. Whatever was going on with the McMichaels, whatever their motivations are, there is absolutely no indication that Roddie Bryan had anything to do with it. Mr. Bryan has been charged with all kinds of crimes. He's certainly not charged with conspiracy. And all he's doing at the time of this shooting is recording it on his cell phone. He's unarmed and 50, 100, I haven't measured it off, yards away from the shooting. And somehow he has been portrayed as if somehow he's conspiring with these people for some nefarious purpose. And it's obvious when you look at the evidence that he's not. And whatever you think of what the McMichaels did that day, and people can reasonably differ, why is Roddie Bryan stuck in the middle of all this? Why has he lost a year of his life? It's just patently unfair to Mr. Bryan to be placed in this situation and to be put on trial for his life. It is just grossly unfair.
So what I'm hearing from you is when we go to trial and there's 3 defendants, this doesn't sound like a unified defense.
It is a unified defense. It is a unified defense. If the McMichaels committed no crime, then Mr. Bryan could not have committed a crime. But whatever you think of what the McMichaels did, Roddie Bryan is not responsible for it. It was not foreseeable what happened that day, and Roddie Bryan has committed no crime. Now, I'm not saying that the McMichaels committed a crime either, but I don't represent them. That's not my job. I represent Roddie Bryan, and Roddie Bryan isn't innocent in all this. I think one could reasonably take the position that Roddie Bryan is a political prisoner in this case, because he should not be in jail right now. He should be out on bond with his family, and this is a tremendous injustice.
Well, I mean, the big question is, why is he get involved to begin with? If he's just hanging out on his porch, why get involved in this chase and this pursuit?
Any patriotic American under the same circumstances would have done exactly the same thing. I have no doubt that any jury will find and conclude the same thing. Now, if there was something else going on with the McMichaels, and that's to be decided at the trial, that's between them, but that's not involving my client. My client had absolutely no involvement in anything that they were doing. He is doing what any concerned citizen, what any patriot would have done under the same circumstances. We tell people all the time, if you see something, say something, that you are your brother's keeper. We look out for our friends. We look out for our neighbors. And given the circumstances that existed, any patriotic American would have done exactly what Roddie Bryan did. And he is being punished as a way of appeasing the woke left mob. And it's simply not right.
And again, we will be covering live those motion hearings starting tomorrow from Glynn County, Georgia. They expect there's a lot of work to do, so they're expecting that those hearings will last 2 days, and you'll see it all right here on Court TV. Some important decisions, though, will have to be made by the judge.